Where we are now is that we are as deeply oversold right now in the markets as we were back in 2022. So we've got this very, very deep oversold condition that kind of aligns with this first initial bottom that we took in 2022. So this kind of what I'm talking about here is any piece of good news, it gives you a decent rally, lets you reduce some exposure here. We come back down, retest that support potentially one more time, and then that ends the correction and we'll be done. And supposedly, the market will start to kind of heal up and move forward from here. Here's what you need to know before the bell. Yesterday's action was not really unsurprising at all. We continue to kind of trace out what we saw in 2022 more than anything else. The analog, so to speak, between what's going on in the markets right now and the 2022 decline are very similar. We've had this decline. We came down, tested support, kind of at the long-term moving average, which has kind of been the running trend of the markets here for a while. Here's the decline in 2022, came down and tested that level as well. Bounced off of it, and now likely we are going to come back down and retest these recent lows, maybe even set lower lows, potentially, somewhere around 4,800-ish on the S&P. Could be the ultimate low, kind of the ultimate bottom for the market. So there's certainly some downside risk here. And again, this market had this big rally. Now we're starting to work our way back down. That's very similar to kind of what we saw here in 2022. You had this down, you tested support, came up, had a decent rally, got above moving averages, and this got everybody kind of excited. This was when the Fed was expected to cut rates, and then the Fed comes out and says, no, we're not cutting rates. Markets come down, test support here at this moving average. Where we are now, very similar, is that we are as deeply oversold right now in the markets as we were back in 2022. So we've got this very, very deep oversold condition that kind of aligns with this first initial bottom that we took in 2022. So this kind of what I'm talking about here is any piece of good news, it gives you a decent rally, lets you reduce some exposure here. We come back down, retest that support potentially one more time, and then that ends the correction and we'll be done. And supposedly, the market will start to kind of heal up and move forward from here. But again, we're kind of still tracing out this very similar pattern that we saw back in 2022. But importantly, markets are extremely oversold. This is a weekly chart, by the way, so things are slowed down a bit. So to get this oversold on a weekly basis is something worth paying attention to, because it doesn't happen that often on a weekly basis. And even when we take a look at shorter term time frames as well, you're seeing that same type of very, very oversold condition. So any type of just positive news here in the short term is certainly going to lead to a reflexive rally to some degree. We have seen this market kind of run. We saw volatility spike up. Volatility has been dropping, and as we continue to watch what's happening here with the markets, and again, this is kind of the key. Markets are really oversold, and volatility is starting to drop here. So again, that also suggests that stress is getting relieved in the overall markets. So we'll continue to watch that closely. But also just taking a look at just general deviations of markets, we're very, very oversold again. We're pushing 2 standard deviations. We actually got down to 3 standard deviations oversold before that bounce that we saw previously, but we're back here towards the lows, starting to see a bit of an upturn in some of the money flow market indicators as well. So we're starting to see some money come in. Yesterday, very late in the day, markets were down about 3% around late afternoon, rallied back in the afternoon. We saw some institutional buying starting to come into the markets. Markets are up today. So again, just be a little bit cautious being too overly bearish right now. Markets are trying to find a level of support here, and wherever they find that support will be kind of a key point to be paying attention to. So what you need to know before the bell this morning.